to the money desk now, where our business editor Devan Murugan is standing by. He'll be telling us some bad news. And Devan, I was saying earlier, I know, Shame, I was telling Devan that I'm tired of the bad news, and he said, no, I try, and I know you try, but at least you have some positive news now.
Yeah, I mean, we've got that jaw-dropping interest rate hike yesterday. And yes, consumers are going to feel that pinch. But I think, it's starting to play out in the market. When interest rates go up, the inevitable consequence in many instances is your local currency starts to gain. So the rand is now below 17 rand to the US dollar, and that in itself fights inflation. So we'll get to that rand issue in a moment. But as you say, the fact is interest rate hikes are not over. Analysts expect the repo rate to go up by at least another percentage point by year end. The 75 basis point hike yesterday, and that was a sharp one, took the prime rate at banks to over 9%. The Reserve Bank says it moved aggressively to try and contain the country's 13-year high inflation. Now, speaking to eNCA a little earlier, the former Reserve Bank Deputy Governor, Daniel Minella, explains why he thought that move yesterday by the Reserve Bank was the right one.
I think the measures that they took were explained well and are a necessary response to make sure that in the long run we protect particularly the poor from the vagaries of inflation. We are obviously entering a very difficult period both in the global economy and in the domestic economy that needs to be managed very carefully. But the situation brought about firstly, by obviously COVID, which we were busy recovering from when we got these other supply shocks, are such that they require us to very, very carefully manage our macroeconomic situation. And unfortunately, nobody likes steep interest rate increases, but I fully support the moves taken by the South African Reserve Bank.
Well, to this story now, the South African Post Office says it has been forced to close over 140 branches across the country because of financial issues and rampant crimes. Well, where did we get this? Well, it's in a written reply, parliamentary reply to a Q&A session. The Ministry of Communications and Digital Technology said most post office in urban areas have been closed because they are unprofitable. But it's not just that. There's also congestion issues at branches. Some branches closed in rural areas due to incidents of crime. A total of 144 branches have now been shut down. Out of those, 26 were due to non-payment of rentals. The post office has been in financial ruin for years. This is not new news. Its 2020 annual report shows reported losses of 1.8 billion rand. All right, just to grab some of that good news from the interest rate hike, if we can find any. The rand has responded well to that interest rate hike. It's now dropped below 17 rand to the US dollar, and that in itself is some good news for inflation if it continues in that trajectory. Otherwise, overall in the markets, the miners, particularly the platinum miners, doing well this afternoon. The likes of Northern Platinum, for example, above 7% in the green. Let's take a closer look at those figures.